Welcome into Varsity College Football, your new home for college football and only college football. Thank you for tuning in here today. Most likely you are an Ole Miss fan or like to be educated about the other teams around your league or in the country. So, Rolling Rebs 2024 could change the program forever. So, look, seriously, 2024, this isn't your grandma's Ole Miss. This isn't your mom's or dad's Ole Miss. This isn't even really the Ole Miss of my childhood or when I was younger. This could be the beginning of Ole Miss actually establishing themselves. Like, we can forget the past, kind of like they are putting themselves into a new level of program within the SEC and possibly nationally. Everything they've done the past few years under Kiffin, they have built themselves up. They have proven they can play. They've proven they can beat the teams they need to beat, but now they need to get that upset. They kind of need that upset. And this is probably the team that can do it. So you've had great, like I said, the great teams you've had, and now you also have a ton of proven returning starters along with the number one transfer portal class, a hell of a recruiting class that's pretty top heavy, but a lot of that recruiting class that's top 20, I think is 17th nationally. Let me check and make sure, can contribute pretty early. William Eccles, I mean, he could play both ways, whether or not you wanted him to. Most likely defensively, Camarion Franklin, who's an absolute stud. Defensively, Jeffrey Rush as well. On top of the transfer class, I mean, the defense that came in, we'll get to that in a second, but the offensive production, Jackson Dart could seriously put himself up for a lot of awards this year. Like, not even crazy to think. You lost Quinshaw Judkins, but yeah, Lane Kiffin knows how to run an offense and piece it together with what he's got. And Ulysses is not a bad running back at all. He's actually one of the better running backs in the SEC. So I'm just telling you, it's not like the program bust, but like this should be a college football playoff year. And I think that it seriously can be. So let's go to the transfers. First off, the line of scrimmage that Ole Miss is going to have is going to be serious line of scrimmage. And I think this is the most important thing. We like to talk about skill positions. We like everything fancy. Big games are normally won up front. And Ole Miss added two offensive linemen from the best offensive line in the country from Washington last year. And Julius Buelow, who is 6'9", 313 pounds, and Nate Kalepo, may have said that wrong, 6'6", 327. You are adding just massive bodies. And then let's talk about the defensive side. I mean, seriously, the edge pieces you have to go along with Walter Nolan. You added the kid from Florida, Princely. I can't say his last name well. So Umanamilian and Tennessee's Barron, dude. Princely was ranked 5th among FBS edges in pass rush win rate this past season, and Barron was a pretty damn good player at Tennessee. You pair that with Walter Nolan, who was probably one of the most, if not Caleb Downs, but arguably one of the most best wanted players in the portal. And then you have so many cornerbacks. Like, there's so much depth at corner that something's got to work. Like, you can seriously have an incredible defense this year. Like, we could be talking about, if all these puzzle pieces come together for Ole Miss, we're talking about a defense that was pretty damn good last year. Like, actually, they were. We could be talking about one of the best defenses in college football next year with this Ole Miss roster. And then you got Kiffin and his offensive craziness with an insanely proven, experienced starter in Jackson Dart. Man, this team should be taken insanely. Oh, and I forgot about Chris Paul Jr. You got Pooh, linebacker, who was sixth amongst SEC linebackers last year with 11 tackles for loss. But I mean, a lot of work this past offseason was put into the defense, which is smart. But a lot of people don't realize they're thinking about these. And you also had Juice Wells from South Carolina. Damn, I keep forgetting just how many pieces they added. But we're talking about size and on the line of scrimmage. This team is going to be able to compete with anyone in the conference this year. I think they could compete with Georgia. Now, this is kind of an early look at Ole Miss, but I'm just telling you, like, this team, like I said, this isn't your dad's Ole Miss, your grandpa's Ole Miss. Like, this is a serious football team. Like, Lane Kiffin, it took some time, and he had respectable teams in years past. This is a serious team that should be like top 5 preseason, I think, and talking about a serious college football playoff contender. Now, I'm not saying they may win the SEC because they do kind of have a favorable schedule, but it's still kind of hard. Because, I mean, you look at their schedule and you don't have Alabama, Texas, Missouri, or Tennessee, or Texas A&M. I'll have their schedule up for you, but I kind of want to go through it with you and just give you my thoughts on this. But it's still kind of tough. And the reason I believe it's tough, you have Georgia, obviously, so that's not fun. But you have them at home. That is big. The reason it's not fun is because if you look at this schedule right here, let's just go quickly. Furman should be a win. MTSU should be a win. At Wake Forest should be a win. Georgia Southern should be a win. Kentucky shouldn't be able to field a team that can compete with you. They get the overhyped crap every year. Y'all should be able to take them down again at home. What's that, 5-0? And then here's where it gets interesting. Back-to-back road games at South Carolina, at LSU. One of the most arguably hardest places to play in the country, and then one of the better and possibly the most underrated home environment in the country. And then you go later down that list, and then you go to Florida. So you got 3 of the harder places to play in the country on your schedule this year, which is the one thing that worries me, but they're better than all 3 of those teams I've listed, unless Nussmeier becomes a god, which could, I mean, I'm not saying that's for LSU, that's could be a possibility, but like those aren't easy places to play regardless. And then you also have the Oklahoma game, who I'm not really sold on Oklahoma this coming year. That'll just be weird, but you got the bye week before that, which is very big, playing someone you are not necessarily very familiar with. So that really does benefit Ole Miss. But then you have the at Arkansas game, which also kind of sucks. And if you're watching this, you're like, what the hell, Arkansas? Ole Miss fans know Arkansas and Ole Miss, when they get on the field, they have some damn good, like, I look forward to the Arkansas Ole Miss game every year, because Arkansas kind of has Ole Miss's number sometimes. And these two teams always play, like, they always play a good football game. Like, throw the records out. This game is always fun every year. But let's talk about this. I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated or anything. I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC. But here's the thing. Let's give them the South Carolina win. They lose at LSU. And then we'll say they survive the Florida game. And then they lose to Georgia. 10-2. Obviously, the 2 top teams go. Let's just say they finish 3rd. This is a team that I would hate to have to host Ole Miss. I get having to go somewhere for a home playoff game would be tough. But imagine you get a first round home game and you have to play this year's coming Ole Miss team. Like, this is a team that maybe seriously may not win the SEC. Not saying they're not capable, but could make a serious run even without it. Like, this could be a team where we look at their record and maybe they're 9-3 or 10-2. But when they get into the playoff, they're 9-3 and 10-2 is a lot better than some of these other teams 10-2 or 11-1s because of the schedule and how hard it is that they've kind of going through, even though it's considered kind of easy. These away games are not fun. Like, you're looking at a team that can seriously be sharpened, like, by iron. Like, I would not want to play this Ole Miss team in a playoff game like that. And I think they will make the playoff. I think they'll be in the 12-team playoff. So what I want to say is just, like, you got to take this. Like, there's a lot of people who are still like, oh, it's cute, like, they're not really recognizing it until that, like, they're not going to believe it until that moment actually happens. But if you're watching this, Ole Miss is a serious, like, I'm not kidding, a damn good football team. And if these pieces come together on paper, you're talking about an SEC contender. You are talking about a national championship possible contender. Playoff, definitely. I think they should. But let's be serious. Like, this is legit. And let's just say they get even if they don't win the national championship this year, let's say they get to the quarterfinal or something, or maybe even a semifinal. Do you know how much that means to Ole Miss? Not like, oh, that means to the fans. Look at what Lane Kiffin has currently done with building this program. If he adds another building block after already having the most wins, the double-digit seasons stat, and then the most wins in a season stat, imagine he throws on a quarterfinal or semifinal appearance in the college football playoff. Imagine he has an SEC championship game appearance. You're talking about a building block that establishes a firm foundation into someone trying to change a program from what it was to what it possibly actually could be, which some of us never thought, and I will include myself in that, a school that can actually be taken very seriously atop the SEC. And that's the reality of the situation we're at. So I'm just saying, 2024, Ole Miss can be that team, man. They can be some dogs. So I'm excited to see how that plays out for them. Lane Kiffin's always a character. Lane Kiffin's always fun. But Ole Miss fans, don't let anyone break your stride. Don't let anyone try to rain on your parade. There's a lot of people who aren't going to accept that y'all are very good until they actually see you beat their team. And that's just because that's what's in their head. But don't worry, you probably most likely will end up beating those people's teams. And I'm damn glad that we do not play you guys this year on our schedule. So good luck to a good 2024 Ole Miss. This is very early, but y'all have a damn good team, man. And it's looking like you could have a seriously, seriously historic year and actually build on a foundation that can make you a top tier team in this conference.